So what I'm here to talk to you tonight about is how we look at raising our consciousness, how we look at that. And so put up the first slide, Dave, please. There we go. So some of the images of consciousness are that it's our birthright, that it's a mystery that is infinite and unfathomable, that we already know and it's only about remembering, that there's an uncovering here, that if we shed our ego or whatever we need to shed, that somehow then we will be in this oneness, that there is nothing that needs doing, consciousness just is. Now, these statements are true, but they put this into a realm that can actually hurt our self-esteem, because then when we don't feel like we are in this oneness place, we're feeling like we have something to shed. That there must be something wrong with us, that since it's our birthright, there must be something wrong that we don't already have it. That since we already know, there must be something wrong that we can't remember. And so this puts it into a realm that has it all very mysterious as to how to be in that oneness. Put up the next slide, please. So what's important to remember is that the unveiling of consciousness is a skill, just like playing the piano. It's amazing to me that no one thinks they ought to be come out of the womb playing like Rachmaninoff. And yet we think we ought to somehow come out having total wisdom and knowing of the unfathomable nature of the universe. It's a skill. It's a skill that needs learning like any other skill. It must be learned. It must be practiced. Not everybody comes in starting at the same talent level. Mozart came in almost knowing how to play before he took a lesson. Beethoven had to practice for years. We can practice. It doesn't matter what level of talent you come in at. It matters your commitment to the mastery of the skill of unveiling your consciousness. Everyone, anyone can master this skill if they put in the time and effort. I have a story for you around talent. I told you one last week about my son. I have an extremely similar story to tell about myself. I practiced for 1.5 years before I went out and played my first gig. I was booed off the stage. Played guitar, practiced for 1.5 years, went out and was literally booed off the stage by a bunch of drunks at the bar. Went home, practiced another 8 months, 9 months, went out, played my second gig. Afterwards, an agent took time to come back, who happened to be in the audience, came backstage to talk to me and said, you know, you really have no talent at this, but you're kind of cute, so why don't you try acting? I went home and I kept practicing, and I kept practicing, and I kept going out and gigging, and I kept practicing. 5 years later, I am reading in a New York newspaper, what a natural I am to have played such a magnificent show. I went in 7 years from no talent at all to a natural. A lot of the people we look at in the world who we think are just natural, have this natural consciousness about them, may have worked their butts off to get it. Time and effort. That's what it takes. We have the next slide, please. And the journey of opening to consciousness is not an easy one. I'd love to say that it is. You know, I hear people pray for ease and grace all the time. But life has its ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. And it's how we approach it and what we do that allows for the journey to be worth it. If we can embrace the fact that this is a worthwhile endeavor, because it is, bringing our awareness to the level of consciousness where we feel that oneness in every situation of our lives, or even more the situations of our lives than we do now, is definitely worth it. Next slide, please. And one of the first things we can look at is how we treat today. One of the very first things we can approach and look at in unveiling our consciousness is how we look at today. Worrying doesn't take away tomorrow's troubles. It takes away today's peace. So when we're thinking about tomorrow, we are losing today. And in the end, the awareness of consciousness always comes down to this moment here. This moment here and now. How are we approaching this moment? How are we being in this moment? And as I've said on many occasions and will continue to reinforce, it is never what we're doing, but who we are being that matters most. Because if we are being that person of peace, kindness, compassion, power, poise, and wholeness, our actions will emulate that. What we do always emulates who we are being. Next slide, please. So one of the best ways for peace, poise, and power, a great way to begin is meditation. Now, I have to tell you that for me, I don't sit well, so I do walking meditations. Others do yoga, some do Tai Chi. It's up to you. But the first step in bringing it into a public situation is to bringing it into the moment is to start when it's already quiet, to find a quiet place to either sit or walk or whatever it is you're going to do and get quiet within yourself. Because to bring it to a public time when things are getting rough starts with how do we bring it to the moment when there isn't anything going on, right? If you can't get quiet within yourself when it's easy, how are you going to get quiet when it's rough? So it's a great place to start, is knowing that, finding that place where it's easy. Can I have the next slide, please? Gratitude. Gratitude is a huge piece. Finding our blessings in each and every day is incredibly important for transforming our lives, for bringing about a higher level of consciousness. These are skills. It takes time to sit down and really count your blessings. And once again, the best place to start is in the quiet times. Before you try to bring in consciousness to the crisis moments or the busy times and all that, make sure you can do it in the quiet times. Because if you can't do it in the quiet times, it's certainly not going to show up in the non-quiet times. And so this is an important piece of what I'm saying is we have to start somewhere. And that's why this is called Chopsticks for Consciousness. What we're talking about today is simply the starting point that we can build on for tomorrow. What we're talking about today is a place to begin. Now, many of us here are beyond the beginning, and that's great. But one thing I learned through Tibetan Buddhism is even no matter how advanced you are, you want to make sure you got the fundamentals covered. You want to make sure you haven't forgotten to sit quietly or walk quietly. Spend quiet time every day, however you do it. You want to make sure that you spend time being thankful every day, however you do it. Finding that kind of peace. You want to make sure that you are not in worry. That if you catch yourself worrying, you remember that that's stealing your peace and bring it back to a place of calm. Next slide, please. The most beautiful people have known defeat, struggle, loss, and found their way out of the depths. They are filled with compassion, gentleness, and loving kindness. These are the words of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. One of my favorite lines is, to abandon the truth in your hour of need is to not understand the truth. That doesn't mean that there won't be hours of need. It doesn't mean that there won't be defeat, struggle, and loss. It means that when those things happen, we can find our way out. We have developed the skills to fill ourselves with compassion, gentleness, and loving kindness in the midst of whatever is going on in our lives. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't just happen. It's what we build inside us over time. We have the ability to become a beautiful person, to build a beautiful life that may be filled with struggle and loss, but also filled with miracles, ecstasy, and wonder. It starts with being quiet. Next week, we're going to go on to step 2 of all this. I'm actually going to continue this same conversation from here, where we'll continue the idea of what it takes to actually transform our lives in a very pragmatic way. It starts with being quiet alone. It starts with being grateful alone. And then it moves into taking it into the struggles of our lives, into those moments. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and relax. And find yourself on a path. Could you turn off that music, Dave, please? Thank you. Close your eyes and take a deep breath and relax. Find yourself on a path. The perfect path. Your path. Feels just right underneath your feet. It may be in the sand. It may be in the woods. It may be in the clouds. It may be in your home. It is the perfect path. Follow this path to a clearing. The perfect clearing. Feel the sensation. Smell the smells, the sights, the sounds. It is your perfect place. There's a chair there. The perfect chair for you. Sit in the chair and feel that ah. Take another deep breath and relax. Imagine that quiet place in you that knows oneness, that knows the connectedness to all, that knows your perfection, your wholeness, your power. See the strands of light that connect you to everything, absolutely everything. Feel the love, the light, the joy. Now imagine yourself walking through your day tomorrow with this feeling intact every moment, all throughout the day. Every encounter. Imagine yourself being peace, poise, and power. Every moment of the day. Imagine yourself being eternally grateful for the wondrousness of your life, the miraculousness of who you are, and carrying that feeling with you throughout the day. Imagine what that feels like. With every encounter, every experience, you feel this connectedness, this love, this light, just the way you do in this moment now. Thank yourself for this deepening, for this beautiful memory of what it's like to feel the divinity in yourself and in everything. And when you're ready, open your eyes.